Now currently Nintendo is bombarding us with all kinds of news. Stuff like the new Mario Collection games, Steve who is now in Smash, and of course footage and trailers for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. And so far we've seen quite a lot of this new Breath of the Wild prequel. And after I watched a ton of gameplay of it, I came up with an idea. We see a ton of armies in that game fighting each other. So why not look at the individual armies to see how good their troops are and who fits where when it comes to leadership. And in my opinion, the Yiga are a great one to start with. So let's look at their forces to find out what the command structure is and how powerful they really are. Let's dive right in. Now the Yiga clan is a group of Sheikah who broke away from the main tribe when their technology was banished, and they are known for stealing information and supplies from the Gerudo tribe. Their base, the Yiga clan Hideout, can be found in the Gerudo region up north, which is quite easy to find if you look out for their logo, which is the Sheikah eye but flipped upside down. Now overall we have encountered them before in Breath of the Wild. In this game we attack their hideout, and they can randomly appear to attack you. And at some point we even take out their leader, Master Koga, after which the Yiga will become more prominent than before, and they will also wield stronger weapons. Now, the Yiga aren't just normal warriors. They will also sometimes disguise themselves as travelers and attack when the time is right. However, these guys also aren't just your run-of-the-mill wannabe ninjas. They can actually do some crazy things. So I would say it's time to look at their troops. Starting off from the very bottom, of course, working our way up one by one. Now at the bottom we have the Yiga foot soldiers, who can be found all over Hyrule. There are plenty of them, and they can even pop out of thin air to ambush you. Now in combat they will often teleport around the area, shooting at you with a duplex bow which shoots 2 arrows. However, they do leave themselves open to attack while aiming. Now, if they wield either a vicious sickle or a demon carver, they will teleport above you and down thrust into the ground with their weapon, telegraphing the attack with a glowing red ring of 9 Hylian letters. Clearly, these guys are quite strong and have a lot of tricks up their sleeves, even though they are just the basic foot soldiers. Now, as far as we can see in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, they don't really use these tricks and just stand there and attack a bit. They mostly try to lay low and sneak up to you, sort of. And then when the time is right, they will strike. So while they are basic compared to the rest of the Yiga army, they have a lot going for themselves, even if they don't always use all their tricks. Aside from that, their gear or powers are not that special. They don't wear any armor that would help with survivability. However, I bet it does help with their assassination tactics. We actually see this when looking at a similar armor set made by the Sheikah, which gives you a bonus in your sneaking capabilities. But what about the next one in line, the Yiga Blade Masters? These warriors are on a completely different level and certainly higher up than the normal foot soldiers. Now these elite units can mostly be found inside of their base, and of course they're seen a lot during the battles of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. However, one thing you notice quite quickly is that these guys are a lot tougher than the others. Now they attack with quite a special weapon, a wind cleaver. These things look like some sort of katana. However, they aren't just some normal sword. They can actually send blasts of air at long distances. Now, we aren't completely sure how this works, but as far as we know, the blades can do this because of special Yiga forging techniques, or maybe even some sort of magic, since we do see them use that. Maybe I should make a video on that. You know what? Let me know in the comment section down below if you want a video on the wind cleaver. But regardless of how this thing works, it makes them a lot stronger because it allows them to attack close up and from a distance, which has huge advantages, as you can imagine. If they have problems getting close to their foe, for example, they can always fire air slashes at them. So they have more options than most melee warriors in the Yiga clan army, although I have to say their range is a bit limited. Now they can also create fissures in the ground that produce updrafts, and eventually a stone pillar emerges from them. Normally you counter this with the glider. Now clearly, aside from the wind cleaver, they have other tricks that can quite effectively take out foes as well. Because you gotta remember, while Link can just use the paraglider in Breath of the Wild, a lot of other people in the world can't. So in a lot of situations, this would be incredibly powerful. Just imagine what this would do to a group of soldiers standing together forming a shield wall. It would blow them all away. However, there are also some negative points. because they aren't as agile as the foot soldiers, because they are so big and wield a heavy two-handed sword. Sure, they can still teleport and dodge incoming attacks, but there are a lot of things they can't do. And as you can imagine, this doesn't make them great at sneaking as well. All they can do to surprise you is teleport out of nowhere. However, even though this is the case, their armor is still best suited for sneaking. It's very similar to the one worn by the foot soldiers, which is a bit of a shame. If they had thick, strong plate armor, for example, then it would help their fighting style a lot and would make them even tougher. Now, if we move higher up in the chain of command, we come across a special type of Yiga Blade Master, who we have never seen before. We only saw him in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and he's some sort of Blade Master captain, a leader in the Yiga army. And while you would think that he's incredibly similar to the normal Yiga Blade Master, that isn't actually the case. As far as we can see in the trailers and gameplay, they are incredibly agile and skilled, maybe even more than all the other Yiga warriors we have discussed so far combined. Aside from that, his gear is also slightly different. He seems to be wearing an extra jacket similar in a way to a gambeson, which is just a thick cloth jacket that protects the wearer. And he also has shoulder pads now. This will probably protect him to an extent. However, this isn't all. His weapons are also incredibly different. Instead of using a big two-handed sword, he uses two one-handed ones. Now this fits incredibly well with his new abilities. Using two lighter, faster and smaller weapons allows him to pull off all kinds of crazy moves like we can see in the trailer. I bet we will see even more of this when the game comes out. However, while he's certainly a key figure in the Yiga clan, he isn't the big boss. That role goes to Master Koga, the person who leads this evil clan into battle, all in the name of Ganon. Now in Breath of the Wild, the fight against Master Koga consists of 3 phases. In the first phase, he conjures up a rock above him to hurl at you. And of course, you can easily counter this by hitting him from afar with a bow, for example. This breaks his focus, and so the rock falls on him, giving you the chance to strike. Now in the second phase, he levitates above a large pit nearby and conjures up 2 rocks that spin around him. And again, you can stun him with an arrow, and then you can strike. Now in the third and final phase, he conjures up a fortified boulder in an attempt to crush you. And what you must do is use magnesis to gain control over the boulder and push it back towards Koga. This will once again stun him, allowing you to strike. So clearly, while Zelda and Link can use Sheikah Slate powers, Master Koga will likely be able to use those as well. However, he also has some other powers that our heroes don't have in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. For example, he can protect himself with a blue shield, ancient arrows act like normal arrows when he's hit with one, and Master Koga and his boulders cannot be stopped with stasis at any time. All of this makes him quite special. In a way, he's similar to Monk Koga, although we don't see all his powers in Breath of the Wild, and he certainly doesn't use them effectively. I bet he's a lot stronger than most people think. However, in Age of Calamity, he could finally show off his real powers. I bet he could crush thousands with some of his abilities. But aside from his powers, he doesn't really have anything going for himself. He doesn't really use any weapons, and his armor is similar to all the other Yigas. So overall, the power of the Yiga army comes in many forms. Their normal foot soldiers are there to surprise you, and if they do, they can deal a devastating blow. Their elite blade masters are tanks that dominate the battlefield, while also dealing huge amounts of damage up close, as well as from a distance. Their captains are tough, but even faster and more agile than all the other Yiga ranks combined. And their leader is a master of Sheikah Slate powers, and he might be able to do a whole lot more. So in general, they are a force to be reckoned with. However, I do have to say they are at a disadvantage in open battle. Here, they can't do sneak attacks as easily unless they are fighting a smaller force, and their armor and weapons are also not suited for something like this. So overall, if I had to give them a rating, I would go for a 7.5 out of 10. If they outnumber their enemy, they will likely win because they can overwhelm them. And even if they are outnumbered, they could use their teleportation trick to confuse the enemy, and this would also make it a lot harder to guess how many soldiers they have. And then I haven't even mentioned the powers of the Blade Masters and their leader Master Koga. Sure, they are better at ambushes and hunting down targets in small groups, but regardless of that, they are still strong, and the things I just mentioned are also handy in war. For example, they could go for a Trojan horse strategy to infiltrate Gerudo Town and attack from within. Maybe we will even see that. But regardless of that, I bet they will put up a good fight.